how to structure the knowledge base wiki pages of your organization so it become holy grail and will always keep your team on the same page about any activity in your company. Hi, I'm Yuri Kuzemko and I'm releasing videos about technology, entrepreneurship, startups and business mindset weekly. So if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to my channel. So to get the most out of the wiki pages in our organization, we need to start thinking about the purpose of the wiki pages in our company. And the most likely purpose of our knowledge-based wiki pages is actionability. We want to have our docs structured in a way that whenever we're trying to perform something, we can easily find the needed document and obtain the needed information quickly and easily. So in order to make our wiki pages easy to access, actionable, and easy to manage, we're gonna be using two main methods, and I'm gonna share a more detailed information about those methods in the end of this video, so make sure you stick to the end. One of these methods called para method, and the other one called that Zettel custom method. So let's jump in and get started. There are a lot of tools on the market today that provide the wiki knowledge-based solution for the company, and it doesn't really matter which tool you are using for your wiki, as far as it supports the nested folders creation and referencing the pages among each other. I'll share you the link to this list of the most popular knowledge-based wiki tools so you can find which ones use the best for your company. For the purpose of this video, I'm gonna be using the Notion tool. That is a really simple tool. I like it. It's just simple, straightforward. It has nothing excessive and supports all the functionality we need and have a bunch of interesting plugins. But you can choose whatever platform you prefer. So let's start step by step first. And first thing we need to do to implement our strategy is to create the proper directory structure. And for this, we're gonna be following the method called para. And para stands for project, areas, resources, archive. And you can see we already have this directory structure created, but the first one is not project, as I just say, and I decided to rename it for the organization purposes for activities, because usually organization might have one big project that call, for instance, SaaS platform development, and this is what is this organization for and what it is wiki for. And this project might have multiple activities inside, and it might be confusing to use the project naming for the high-level structure. So we have activities, areas, resources, and archive. And what are those directories about? So the para method is about structuring them by the actionability. So activities, there are some things that we're doing right now and that have a more or less strict deadline, time and date. For instance, areas that are also activities that we're doing now, but they might not have the end. So these are the endless activities. For instance, if we're talking about the authorization feature implementation to our platform, this is an activity that has a strict deadline. We need to get it done for the next month, and that's it. That's why we will store that all the documents and directories regarding authorization feature implementation about the activities directory. If we have like the quality assurance documents, these things we're doing right now, but they don't have an end deadline. So we're gonna be doing quality assurance for all the time we have the project. That's why we're storing all the quality assurance documents in the areas directory. If we talk about all the other type of documents that might be useful, for instance, we can store them in resources. So let's say we want to store some information about how should we perform our data restoring in case of accident. This is not something we do it right now, so it won't suit in activities and areas, but it might be useful eventually and we want to store in resources. So we created all the activities that might be useful but don't have any immediate actionability, and the resources directory. And the archive is about something that were relevant but it's not relevant anymore, but we still don't want to delete it because we might want to review some kind of history of our thinking, of our documenting eventually. So we're moving everything that is not relevant, and it's not going to be relevant in the archive instead of deleting it. And there is another folder that called inbox. And inbox, this is where everything starts. So when we following our strategy, we're gonna be creating new articles starting from an inbox, and I'll tell you more information about it soon. So let's start talking about implementing our strategy. So to implement the strategy, we need first of all to create all of the directories, activities, areas, resources, archive. Then we need to find out our existing directories and documents and figure out where should we move these documents. For instance, we have the recruitment document over here. The recruitment contains some kind of basic information, our principles about recruitment, then different roles description that we have over here. And what we want to do as far as the recruitment, it might be an endless activity that happens continuously, but it might be just we recruiting these two roles of project management and backend software developer for the next month, and then we're not going to be doing recruitment for, I would say, year or something. So that's why, depending on the use case, you can move it either to activities or areas. I will move it to activities. So now we have recruitment on the activities. Then we have QA, quality assurance. These are our QA different documentation about how to create tests, about test cases. And this is something we are doing right now actively, and we're going to continue doing so. And it doesn't have the deadline, so we're gonna move it to the areas. And then let's say we have the document about organizing Teams Wiki. That let's say we don't think that we're gonna be organizing the team wiki again, but it might be useful to keep this document for the further references, as someone who is new can just go and see this document. So we will move it to the resources. And yes, all the other documents that are relevant right now and doesn't make any sense. For instance, we were making a research of different AI platforms, and we have description of like 10 platforms with their features, and we've chosen one. So we don't need this information about descriptions of platforms that we're not going to use. So we might want to keep the information about the platform we've chosen in the resources, but all the other information we will put to the archive. So once we established our documents within directories, we want to optimize the documents by using Zettelkasten method. Zettelkasten method is about referencing pages and keep them as atomic as possible. What does it mean under atomic? That, for instance, we have the big document, that recruitment. It has some basic principles of recruitment and has requirements for different roles. Zettelkasten would suggest that we, instead of having big one document, we split it into multiple atomic pieces. So let's say we have a top level recruitment document, and we're going to create the document within it and call it project manager, or project manager role description. I will just call it project manager, and that's it. Then I go ahead and copy this info from the main document. And I'm gonna also create the same for the backend software developer. It's gonna be developer, not development. Developer. And copy the same information for the software developer. Just paste it, and then I will also not keep the recruitment principles in the root document, but rather I would rather create a separate document. So I'll copy this information from over here and create another document called, let's say, principles. And in this document I will paste all this information. Then I will remove this information from over here. So our root page is just for my personal manageability. You just have the directories inside. And now we make this page atomic, so we split it into 3 different pages. So now what we want to do, we want to create references. So when someone views the project manager description, role description, let's say role, and then we add the role over here, so it's going to be more obvious. It's very important for them to make sure that there are some basic principles of the candidate choose. The role of the product manager, and we might want to add the link here. We might want to reference to the principles. So before we're talking about the role, we should go to the principles and see how we're evaluating the basic principles of our recruitment. And the same we're going to be doing here. The role of the backend software development, we're going to reference it like this. There are a whole bunch of different ways how you can reference documents among each other, but you got the idea. The Zettel custom method is about making the documents atomic and reference them among each other, so we can if we want to access the backend software developer role document straight away, we just read it. We will be in the context of the more high-level requirements for every document that keep within the principles document by this reference. Okay, so when it comes to the QA document, and pretty much the same, we will need to split it up to atomic pieces. We might want to create a separate directory inside of the QA with the API testing cases and place every case in its own directory. And then we might want to add this document, the prerequisites, as a separate page to the QA directory, just to keep them atomic, and then create a link references among them. It's about the implementation of the strategy. So how to actually follow the strategy, what it consists of. First of all, when you go to your knowledge base, your wiki page, and you want to create a new page, you don't need to think about where this page to put. All you do is just create it in inbox. You just create this page in inbox, and that's it. So you add this page, for instance, you want to create you are doing right now implementing the user management dashboard. So let's create a page for that. So we just created the page, and then we might want to create different stuff inside of the page. Like we want to add the user journey map over here. We might want to add some UI examples and all of these. The UI proposal, the UI design, and then we want to create a separate part for the implementation. So we started by creating just a raw document with everything at one document. So after we created it, we might want to do multiple regions. We just add in new information, and before we want to make this document as ready to go, ready to review by others, we want to actually structure it. So what we're gonna do, first of all, we're gonna add references for all of the text. Let's say we're using some kind of information from recruiting, from QA, and we referenced all the other documents. And then we might want to consider if it needs to be split into atomic pieces. And yes, we might want to create a separate pages for the user journey map with some content over there for the UI examples, and we might want to split it into atomic pieces. And then we just need to figure out where to place this set of documents in our para structure. And to do it, ask yourself simply what I'm doing right now. Is it a project? Like, does it have a specific deadline? I think user management dashboard has a deadline because we will implement it and this project will finish. So that's why we will need probably to put it into activities. Then, if let's say we're testing the UI, and we created a document about testing the UI, and we've shared some information about testing the UI, whatever, and now we want to structure it. What are we doing? We're doing testing. Does it currently relevant? Yes, it's relevant. Does it have end deadline? No, we're gonna be testing UI continuously without a deadline. So that's why we will put testing the UI into areas. Maybe we already have the folder that is called QA, so we will put it inside of QA folder. The same for activities. If we already have the directory in the activities that identifies user management, let's say we have the user management functionality folder, and here is the folder with user management dashboard, we will put it inside of that folder. So that's how we structure it. For instance, there might be another type of document we've added to inbox, and it's called like how to launch the server locally. We just want to add some tutorial for developers how to run the server locally. And this is something that locally. And we're adding some information over here. Once we've done it, we also reviewing this document for references, which part of this document we can reference for, maybe for QA, maybe for something else, maybe for some other local development documents. And then we also figure out if we want to split it for atomic pieces. And then after that, we will ask, what is about launching the server locally? Is it like activity that currently is doing? Well, I don't think so, because all of our developers already launched the services. They won't be referring to this doc in the near future. But maybe the new developer will come in half a year and he will need this document. So it's neither activity nor area, because it doesn't relevant right now, but it might be relevant in the future. So that's why we will put it into resources. And under resources, we might already have some kind of a directory that called like local development or something like that. So we will figure out and put this document or set of documents inside of this directory. This is the basic process of how we adding new documents. So we don't need to think about where to put the document when we creating it. We just put it into inbox, and then after we created it, we figure it out. It might be the case that we even want to split that. After we split the document for atomic pieces, we might want to place different atomic pieces into different folders, different structures. That also might be the case. Okay, and the final step is about the maintaining our wiki. So we already covered two steps: the implementing wiki, when we're starting from our existing wiki, or we're starting from scratch, and we bringing the wiki the structure, so it's gonna be really valuable and easy accessible. Then we've talked about how we're following this strategy on the go, so how we create new documents that follow the strategy without really taking a lot of care to follow the strategy, but also we will need to make a regular maintenance of our wiki pages. And to make this maintenance, we basically need to figure out some time interval. Let's say we're doing once a week, or once per sprint, or once a month, or something like that. We just need to negotiate with our teams how it's gonna be better for us. Maybe every time we closing the sprint, we finish in some activities, and this is the time where we want to polish our structure. And so basically, what are we doing during this maintenance period? Let's say it's like every sprint. First of all, we go to activities and see are there any activities where we have right now that are already finished. So if they finished, we might want to move them to archive, but we need to figure out, for instance, recruitment. We just finished recruitment. Okay, we've hired the project manager, we've hired the backend software role. So we don't need these requirements anymore right now. We might need them eventually, but it doesn't look like our roles requirements will change. So while we go in archive, we will just probably create a new directory and name it recruitment, and just move this stuff over here to archive, because it's very likely that we don't need it anymore. But we have also the principles document, and the principles document is something that probably won't change a lot. And if we start another recruitment round in a year or so, we want these principles back. So that's why we will put it into resources. So now we have the resources in recruitment that describe the principle, and now we have the in archive of recruitment project roles. This is how we're doing these activities. So we're just checking if there is an activity that finished, does it have any information that still might be relevant, might be usable, then we put it to resources. Otherwise, we put it to archive. Then we check areas, reviewing all the documents inside of the area. Are there any documents in the areas that are irrelevant? For instance, we had the area of like meeting notes. We had a sprint planning session, and we were adding like agenda items, meeting notes, documents, and yeah, we found that we probably won't need these documents for the last couple of months, for the last year anymore. So we will move them from areas to archive. If we have some other documents, let's say there also might be the case when the whole area is becoming irrelevant, like we were managing our infrastructure ourselves, but now we hired the team that could outsource it for us, and we don't really need it, so we might want to consider to move it to archive. So these are the two places where we should do a review regularly, like once per sprint. So the first one is activity, the second is areas. Also, it's good to make a review of the resources, because it might be the case that, for instance, how to launch server locally, our server specification has changed and this information needs to be updated. So we also need to review it regularly. Maybe not as often as activities and areas, but at least once a month or something like that. We need to go through our resources and find out whether some resources are becoming irrelevant, so we can move it to the archive, or maybe some of them are out of sync and we need to update them, so we can move them to inbox or assign some task for someone to update this document. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm going to share with you the resources about the para method, and this is the blog of the Fort Labs. This is the blog of the inventor of this para method, and this is the article about how you can use team knowledge management with para method, and you can find also another interesting articles in this blog. I would also recommend to read the book of this author Tiago Forte that is called Building a Second Brain, and this book explains about how we can use para method to structure the organization knowledge or just the personal knowledge. And also there is another blog I would recommend to find out how to better structure your knowledge. It's called ZL Custom. It's a method of creating notes by referencing them, and you can find out a lot of information, a lot of interesting information about how to properly create documentation, create pages, create notes here. So this is how you can get the most of the knowledge of your organization, so it's going to be actionable, relevant, and easy to use. If you like this video, click the like button. Also, let me know how you're currently managing your documents in your organization in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to my channel, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in one of my next videos.